and welcome to the No Taboo Woo Show.
I'm Sandra Logan.
And I'm Gail Chisholm.
If you enjoy being a fly on the wall of deep and meaningful conversations between pals on all things spirituality, healing and personal empowerment, then you have landed in the right podcast.
Enjoy today's episode.
Hello. Happy Sunday day of recording. It is.
I know, we
the
don't normally
Sun's
do a
day.
Sunday.
We don't normally do a Sunday, and it is the day after the new moon in Taurus. New moon vibes.
New moon vibes.
New moon vibes.
I always feel the new moon. It's just, I feel like I could sleep for a week.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I'm curious to see what card came out today.
Yeah.
Gail's
Let's
using a
start-
different
yeah, let's
deck
start with
today.
So I used, because I haven't used these on the pod at all. I haven't used them for ages, but it's called the Kismet Codes. And it's a oracle deck by a lady called Ebony Allard. And it is
Ebony's a nice name, isn't it?
oh, and it's
Ebony.
spelled Ebonie. That would make a nice signature. Do you remember, like, did you do that at school where you'd be like, you'd practice your signature,
Yeah, for when you're famous.
or you'd wish you were called something else? It's yeah. Anywho, this deck is well, I'll read it back. It says it shares the wisdom of the 64 human design gates. That's why I purchased it, because of to aid my human design knowledge and certification. But you can, in the same way as any other oracle deck, shuffle the cards and invite a message to come out for you on what needs to be shared today. Because this deck is actually, I've not used it so much. It felt a little sticky, although the cards are lovely. They're circular.
They're so pretty.
They are lovely, and they're slightly gilt edged, so they are lovely. But I ended up doing a split the deck, and today's card it's for gate 38, which is in the root center, but it's called the Nuanced Ninja.
Oh, aye.
Haja!
Ja.
That's my ninja impression. And it says at the bottom of the card, so it's got a little ninja. It looks like it's got those malala beads.
Malabeach, yeah.
And at the bottom it says, I courageously persevere for the things of value and meaning in my life.
Love that, because new moon in Taurus ruled by Venus, is all about our values. What do you
Absolutely.
value?
So this gate or code is all about discerning what to take a stand against or fight for. It knows that perseverance and the reward for the unwaveringly fighting for what is right leads to deep fulfillment and meaning in life. Gate or code 38 knows that a strong sense of justice, purpose and honour comes from campaigning for its ideals. And the spirit of this code is code 38 is to overcome and to find its own way. I like this. Deaf to the mainstream, gate 38 is the underdog done good. Yeah. There's loads of stuff. What's quite interesting, so I suppose the core theme for this is pressure to find or struggle for purpose in life. Pressure here is not necessarily a problem. Act from the amount of pressure that is correct for you. And I suppose if we're thinking of this from like the oracle perspective, it's really an invitation, like to me it's an invitation to lean into the light end or the high vibration of this energy. And that is, the light end is honourable, independent, plays the long game, knows what's worth fighting for and perseveres for the things of value, persistent, lives a meaningful life and courageously fights for what is right, continuous quest to embody a higher purpose. Let me see, it normally has, to raise the frequency. This is always quite good. So maybe this is what the invitation is for us at the moment, is to challenge and rewrite any beliefs that you are, and then in quotes, meant to struggle in life and recreate with your fighter spirit.
Ooh. So for anybody who is into human design, or maybe not into human design and wants to get there, well, if you can get your chart, that's a good place to start. I'm a poet. But How would that energy show up differently for people who have that gate 38 in human design versus people who don't have that gate? Because you and I both don't have that gate.
No.
So what's the difference in terms of like working with the energy? One like naturally has a tendency towards that if they do have the gate.
So if it's defined, that generally means consistent access to it. So if we both had that defined, we would have consistent access to the energy of that gate, which could be in the high side or we could be sitting in the shadow end. But the way that human design works, it's because of it's multi-layered, but because it's connected to planetary alignment at a point in time and a place on Earth, which is obviously where you get your chart from, is connected to your place, date, time of birth. But because of that is that these gates, all the gates and the centers will be defined at some point in time anyway. And like in the same way as like in astrology, we're in Taurus season now, aren't we? Yeah, we're about to come out of that. Because and everybody's in Taurus season, so we can obviously tune into the energies of that. But
Yeah.
presumably, if you are a Taurian, then the energy is amplified for you. But the same with human design is at some point in time, gate 38 will become defined for everybody. So everybody has access on that particular day or time to the theme of that gate.
Cool.
Yeah. I feel like at the moment though, this is like it's an invitation for, maybe this is that thing of like, what's worth fighting for? What and especially if it's to do with like beliefs and values. So yeah, and where this sits, so it sits in the root. So all the gates in human design. So the gate has a theme, and then the gate sits within an energy center which has a theme. So you could look through this through the lens of what the root center brings. And actually you could probably see that because it's that sort of connected to like values and justice. So it's like grounding into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Rewrite any beliefs that you're meant to struggle in life and reconnect with your fighter spirit.
It's an interesting one. The old struggle. I can definitely resonate with that. With old stories of a life of struggle. I think when you go through a lot of adversity and a lot of challenges in life, it's almost like that kind of becomes a baseline norm in a way to your nervous system. And I have like had to consciously do a lot of work to shift that energy, but the old story still appears, and is very much so at the moment with what I'm going through. And interesting that the card came through around the root. I debated whether or not to talk about this on the pod, but I think that it's important. My dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, one of the really nasty ones. It's the pancreas. And so I've been back up in Scotland for the last few weeks, spending time with him. My dad, interestingly, is a Capricorn, which is all about that root chakra energy. It's all about having a strong foundation.
Yeah.
And
this gate is actually Capricorn.
so this is a huge lesson for me, not just in terms of what I'm navigating with the grief of everything going on, but also in terms of my foundation. Because a big thing that I've really noticed coming up is around foundation. And we talk a lot about the spiritual foundation and having a strong sense of self and the inner work to really connect with the truth of who you are. And what's really coming up for me at the moment with this situation with my dad is around like the foundation that we start out in life. And, it's our life givers, our parents, that create that foundation. And having grown up since 13 without my mum, and now, this like knowing, I mean, we all know that our time is going to come at some point, right? And that death is inevitable. But when you are given a sort of a time frame for how that is going to happen with somebody so important in your life, it's like it changes your perspective, and it really makes you reassess things, and it makes you reflect a lot. And so what I feel like is, in terms of my physical foundation, it's like the rug has been pulled from under me, because those two people will come at a point, and it will come at a point for all of us, right, that they're not there anymore. So it's like, what are the lessons that we've taken and can take while they're here? Because our parents were our parents for a reason, whether we have had harmonious relationships with them in life or not. I mean, my dad have been through a lot together over the years, right? It's not all been smooth sailing. And it's how we take the lessons from what they're here to teach us. And sometimes, like, especially for me, like, Capricorn has been a really fucking hard lesson. Like, really hard. And Saturn, which rules Capricorn, is in my 6th house, my house of service, my house of health, even pets. And it's in Sagittarius, so like we've talked a lot about the balance between like me having the freedom to create a life and work that I love and that feels meaningful, and doing it in a way that gives me the freedom of time and flexibility and all that. But then Saturn's been in there to be like, okay, but what about your foundation? Like, how's your foundation? Is that strong? Have you got good roots? Have you got that stability that you need? And the stability is the biggest thing that my dad has been trying to teach me. But it's been through his lens of his life experiences. And we have very different views of the world and of life. And while we hold some of the same core values, we have like completely different approaches to life. And so it's like, in our differences, it's like, how can we learn from each other? And also, how's he open to learning from me? Because me, as a Pisces sun, Cancer rising, I mean, I'm the feeler of the family, very deep feeler connected to the emotional body. And it's like, with that and having 7 mutable placements in my chart, like, mutable energy in your chart is like the go with the flow energy. So I always thought my dad was like the one that's like too grounded in reality. It's like, come on, like, life's meant to be fun. We're meant to be enjoying this experience of being a human on earth. And, you know, so I've been showing him, which has been very triggering for him, I've seen over the years, and not in an intentional way from me, but, you know, he's had the opportunity to learn from me about like enjoying life and having more freedom and flexibility, where I've been learning from him about having a strong foundation in which to then move from. It's almost like, to have an analogy, it's like I am like the balloon that is floating and can go with the wind, and he's like the string that's on the little paperweight that keeps that from flying off into the absolute ethers. And so I'm really noticing how like strongly all of these things are coming up for me right now, and it's not easy to navigate. It's really not easy to navigate, and it's bringing up a lot. It's bringing up a lot of feelings and grief, and also looking at, you know, all of the things that we've been through together in life in terms of where I am now on my own journey, and, you know, where I could have done things differently, and also for him too. And, you know, I would love to have these deeper conversations with him, but he's not always in a place to do that, and he's going through his own really challenging chapter as he's closing out his life, and I'm very mindful of that. And so it's accommodating my own needs and sort of taking care of those while also holding space for him and how he wants to navigate this time. So it's a lot, and I'm learning a lot, but the root chakra is a big one for me because, you know, not even just in terms of the relationship in life, but it's like where I am physically, you know, having come off of being in a van for the last 3 years and all of the flexibility. We've talked a lot about that on the pod, and realising how much I have needed that stability, and then coming back almost to Scotland, it's a bit like with my tail between the legs and being like, you know, you might have been right about some things, Dad, and accepting that, owning that. And you know, I'd reached that realisation before I found out about what was going on with his health. Like we spoke about that on and off the pod. So I'd already reached that realisation that for me to be able to grow in the way that I want, to be able to thrive and have the kind of flexibility that I really want in life, actually having a strong base, a solid base for myself in which to then move from is really important. And at the moment, everything's a bit up in the air. So physically, I am staying with friends at the moment. My friend's mum, shout out to Connie. She has been an absolute star and very, very welcoming, which has made a huge difference. My friends have been showing up incredibly. And you know, but it's been in this space where I don't have my own base and space. But I do trust that, you know, we're always where we're meant to be, even if it doesn't make sense, and even if you've got a lot of questions that are unanswered. So yeah, it's just going with it. And I find myself, especially when I first came up, there was a lot of seeking certainty. Before we had the answers about what was going on, we knew there was a lump, but we didn't know what it was, or there hadn't been, you know, there was no prognosis or anything. And I went into really looking for certainty, finding out what was going on, trying to rush the process. And honestly, I'm so hugely disappointed with the NHS, that the way that it's all been handled, really not cool. But that's a story for another day. And, you know, there's so much that's outside of our control in these circumstances that I noticed that I was really trying to cling to a sense of certainty, which I just couldn't get. And I found that really frustrating. And now that we know the prognosis, we don't know obviously specifically what's going to happen. It's very unpredictable, especially what he's dealing with at the moment. So I'm finding it's this practice of surrender. Surrender isn't always easy. It really isn't. And surrendering to the things that are outside of my control, surrendering to the unpredictability of life, to chaos and change and the uncertainty of it all, and surrendering to that and just trusting that I'm going to be okay at the end of it all, which doesn't always feel like the case. So back to the card and the guidance, it's like, you know, sometimes life does just feel like a struggle. It does. And I keep trying to remind myself that it's not always going to feel like this. But when you've been through a lot of grief in life, it's like it doesn't ever truly go away. It's like it's got different shades, and it goes through all of these different like phases, and you can sometimes find yourself circling back and it catches you off guard. And it's like how you then, you know, create a life that still exists, because the love's still there. And that's the thing with grief, right? It's like the love with nowhere to go thing, but you know, it's love still exists. The love still exists. So yeah, life at the moment is, it just doesn't feel easy, and it's accepting that it doesn't feel easy and sitting in it, sitting in the discomfort of it and not trying to run away from that. Because I've certainly noticed times that I'm like, I don't want to sit with this. And even having, learned all the different ways to process my emotions, to feel it, I mean, it still feels like shit. It still feels like shit. And it's just that it's a part of life. And then on the other side of that, like the guidance in that card, it's like letting go of the stories of struggle, and how can the things coexist that we can experience the lightness of life, the joy and the love and all of the good stuff, while you're still navigating these periods of grief and change and chaos and uncertainty. And it's a balance trying to navigate that. And it's life, right? It's life, and it's not all one or the other. But my mind has been very, very active lately. So I've been meditating, listening to a lot of healing frequencies and sound baths, and having a balance of time where I am like pulling back to process things myself, because I'm a hermit line as well in human design. That processing time is important for me. I need to withdraw so I can have that time, but it's also having the balance of like having people holding space. And I've been really blessed that I have friendships in my life that can hold that space for me, and you've been one of them. G. And it's like this big theme of emotional safety has been coming up. The people that I feel safe to be vulnerable with and to open up to, and to share like where I'm at, and actually, warts and all, just share myself and my fears and whatever else might be coming up, and having people hold space for that. And is a very different way of navigating grief to when I lost my mum. And that's one thing that I really do give myself credit for in terms of like the inner work that I've done, because I was a kid when she passed away, right? So it was very different. I didn't have any of the tools and didn't have role models who were emotionally regulated and could teach me how to do that. So these are things that I've sort of learned myself along the way. And I think it's like that reminder of like, just because I'm feeling the grief and feeling the pain of it doesn't mean that I'm doing something wrong. It's actually a part of the process. And Sandra at 13, God, right up until probably her 30s, was still navigating how to process, the trauma and the pain of what had happened. So I'm in a very different space now where I can allow it to move through me. But the waves come and go, they catch you off guard, and sometimes you don't know when they're going to hit you. You just don't know. So yeah, it's been an interesting time, to say the least. Didn't have that on my bingo card for 2026. And I was thinking the other day, because I think we talked about this in the pod before, about like our word of the year. My word of the year was thriving. And I'll be honest, this has been one of the toughest starts to a year in a while. And it's almost like, I was thinking about this, is how sometimes what we ask for, it brings up the opposite of us, so that we're forced to sort of face what's not working in order for us to have that thing. So sometimes it can feel like things are not going my way, but also it's like what's underlying and what's going on underneath, and how can you be in, like, with the whole word thriving, like how can you thrive in a a period of life that there are all of these challenges, and what if the goal right now is not to thrive, it's actually, this is a period of just get through it,
But
survive.
an alternative perspective on thriving is exactly what you've just talked about, that how, you've already mentioned that how you dealt with your mum passing, and then versus how you're dealing with this is actually coming from a place of thriving. The fact that you are thriving has meant that how you manage this and are dealing with this is actually a very different perspective, which in itself is an element of thriving and living. So if you think of what is thriving, it's like growth, blossoming,
Yeah.
like abundance, or there's progress. It's a very active and expansive word. I'm a bit laughing because my word for me is thriving. Maybe you permeated into my subconscious earlier in the year, but and so sometimes we think that thriving always has to be about like the positive end, but actually if you weren't thriving, how you would be navigating this situation just now would be very different and more akin to maybe how, I mean, obviously you're an adult now, you're not a child anymore, but in terms of sitting with the feelings and the grief and navigating it, and like you came back to Scotland, you didn't stay where you were, like I wanted to say manned up, but like, you know what I mean, womaned up, but like you've steered this head on and been like, right, okay, well, I'm not running away. I'm going to go up and I'm going to just sit with the thing. And that takes courage. It's also showing wisdom. And to me, it is showing that you're thriving, because it's an emotional maturity and an emotional regulation that's like, I think if you weren't in that thriving state, that just the way in which you would handle dealing with something like this in life would be very, very different. And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes with words and language, we choose something because of maybe a perception or an interpretation that we have at a particular moment in time. But actually, I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you because I think that actually you are thriving and you are embodying that word this year, even in the darkest days.
Thank you. Thank you for reflecting that back. I think it's just not my, it wasn't what my vision was. I didn't have this vision for thriving in 2026. I was like, I'm going to turn 40 and it's going to be, a glow up in life. But maybe this is part of an emotional glow up.
It is.
A different kind of glow up.
And I think, and it's a really, it takes, I suppose it's the tools and like, and it's, it takes it's a different perspective or a different interpretation of that word, but it's like, because sometimes I know that certainly for me, I've picked it from a sense of, when I'm thinking this month around, well, what does I am thriving mean to me? It's about like business growth. It's like the good things coming in and but actually thriving, if you think of all the facets of being a human being, there's highs and there's lows that like and actually maybe that's also part of the joy of being human, is the fact that we have highs and lows. I mean, could you imagine how boring life would be if we were just like sat at like a little like line in the middle where we weren't having ups and downs? But and if you think of all the work that you were doing at like the start of the year around, well, what does thriving mean to me, how does that want to feel, and and then you sort of think around the energy and the vibration of how you're moving through this bit is really from a thriving perspective. Like you've already talked about, like like how you're moving through this and the tools that you're leaning on, and it is there's a period of growth that you've already said that, like the lessons that just that you've been reflecting on, what you've been learning. Like that is an expansive energy despite it coming through grief and through the sadness.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that, talking about growth, because that was really what, when I looked at that word, when I chose that word, it was very intentional, because thriving to me is growing. You know, it feels vibrant and it feels light and it feels like where there's a lot of potential,
Yeah,
right?
momentum and like, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
I think it's just it's challenging when there's like, you know, I always circle back to the tarot in some way. But it's like, you know, the death card.
yeah,
It's like on the
yeah,
other side of death card, there is, because it's a renewal, right? And everything that ends is transmuted, and even us. And this is another aspect of like grieving where I am now, is like my perspective is very different because of my connection to the universe and to having connected with spirits and to my ancestors and things. And so I also have that sort of permeating in my mind. So it's a very sort of different view of death and like what is on the other side of it, because I've witnessed things in the last few years that are very different from what I had known, you know, when I've gone through different periods of grief in my life. So there is that, but I think it's just that there's in that period where it is like the, you know, that ending, and you're in that, and you're also like not sure how long that is going to last, well, in terms of like the actual transition. And then because you can't put a timeline on grief, right? But it's like what can grow in that space, because it feels to me very much like at the moment, like there are areas of my life that are growing. I notice in my connections in life. I've talked about that a lot, as well as like, you know, that whole community thing, right? And one of the things Gail said to me about coming back up to Scotland is that it's an opportunity for your community to be there for you. Because I do, like, I have amazing people up here. I'm very grateful for. So, you know, there's the growth in those areas where I'm getting to connect with the people in my life. But it's there's parts of my life that I feel like are just, they're at a bit of a standstill at the moment, because like I would love to be investing more energy and time and growth into like business ideas and to being of service in the world, but it's also recognizing what's your capacity to give at the moment, and is this really at that a period of like fertile ground? Like realistically, this is not the right time for that for me. Doesn't mean that I can't be working on things in the background, but I'll be honest, like I said to you, I've said to Gail in a voice note, like my motivation at the moment is just like, you know, the drive. And I think it's just accepting that at moments it's just going to be the case, you know,
I think
and
that's the
not
thing.
trying to force yourself into something that you're
Yeah.
not feeling right now.
And if we talk about like, you know, walking the walk around, you know, and not sort of bypassing stuff, it's like,
Mm,
you know, like it's okay to just sit and be and you know, and if you're like, actually I just need I joked with you on a voice note, I was like, just sit and binge watch Love Is Blind. But sometimes we just have to be in that energy. And I think that, I was going to say the trick, but I don't mean it like that, but it's more you know, I think in those moments as well, we get clarity because we can. I know I did send you that TikTok about clarity comes in the momentum, but sometimes it's
mm,
actually, you know, we're just, the more you, like, if you tune into what you're being called to do, that's that kind of that authenticity. And I also then think that sometimes it allows things to pass through,
mm,
and that actually almost, because sometimes for me, like the quicker way to get where I want to be is to just, is literally to sit and switch off and do nothing, because if I keep push, it can actually take me longer. Whereas if I just stopped and be like, I have zero energy, I need to just sit and like vegetate on the sofa or go and have a nap,
yeah.
and it allows me to get to where I want to go faster. But that's probably something that's come over like a longer to like the last few years, is honoring that. And if I
Mm,
think back to going through my chemo, like you know, I worked through that because it gave me a lot to do with it, but I hustled through times when I should have just
yeah.
stopped.
Your
And
body's like, stop.
yeah, and I just think I
Mm,
didn't. I sort of ignored it to a point. There's a lot of reasons for that, right? But and I think there is a lot of conditioning out there that where there can be, and it's conditioning of the word I hear if I sit and do nothing is like I'm being lazy.
Mm.
Whereas actually, and this is where I suppose the wisdom and the growth comes, is that I know that I'm not being lazy. I'm actually listening to what my body is asking for, which will actually re-energize me or give me more energy in the longer run, which means that what I produce or what I do will be more a reflection of me. Whereas because if I just keep going and going and going, is you risk burnout in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think I said this to you in a voice note. I think it's really, when we talk about death and dying and stuff, and we sort of think, is it better? Some people will say, is it better that you're just gone, like poof, right?
Mm.
Or is it better that that there's an exit and there's an opportunity there? And that's for the individual, but also for the people around.
Mm-hmm.
And, whilst on one hand, you've got a wonderful opportunity to be there, but like you've already said, that you don't know exact timelines, you don't have answers on certain things, you don't know, like it's like, so there's a sense of like, is stuff on hold for my life and what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
there's so many things that are just bombarding you, and
Yeah.
that actually the best way to process that is to just sit and do nothing, or it might be
Mm.
go for a walk. If that's what you feel like you can only do, then that's, I think the key bit is just tuning into what you're being called to, and to try and shut out the noise of
Yeah.
what the world or society thinks you quote unquote should be doing. It's I mean, you know more than me, Sandra. I mean, you've had to navigate significant grief with like losing your mum at such a young age and everything that brought, and then like what your dad's going through, not just in terms of like the treatment and witness and all of that and the support, but then like you've said, around he's always been a bit of a mirror for you around certain stuff, and then you're like, fuck, I'm not just having to deal with the fact that he's really ill. It's like it's a mirror for me every single time,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's just baby steps, to one thing at a time. And you know if
Yeah.
the thing you feel like doing today is just do the pod, we do the pod, and then you go and have a snooze, and because you're
Mm.
processing even when you're not doing things.
Yeah. 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 The tendency to want to just be still or be in nature. Like there's a beautiful garden here with a little summer house that I have been spending time in. It's been a really nice place to meditate and do my readings for TikTok, and just it's got a little like wildflower meadow, and it's beautiful. And there are 4 dogs in here currently that I just, whenever I go out, like they just follow you around. Connie laughed and she said, it's like I've got ham hanging out Mars. And that's what it's like. It's like they're just constantly, there's like this trail of dogs just out. And I love that. I love, the connection with the animals, and that's really beautiful. It's finding these little moments of joy that are, keep you going through it all. And, I finally started getting back into my astrology diploma as well. So I've been ticking along with that. I think also like see having something one day we'll get this done. I think it's having something that you're interested in, because this is the thing with this pod, right? I know I'm going to be speaking to people that are navigating their own shit at the moment, like navigating their own stuff, and it's like, yeah, I would love to be a person that has all the answers. I'm not. I'm still figuring it out with the rest of you. But I think having some things in your life that are of interest, that you feel like you're making a bit of progress on, is really helpful, even if it's just little things. So, like, astrology has always been something that I've been fascinated by. So, sort of doing a bit, and just bite-sized chunks. It's not like I'm sitting down for, a whole day to do this, but when I feel like, do you know what, now I'm going to spend a bit of time and I've got another module completed. Got 100% pass rate, by the way, just FYI. So
Check you out.
check me out. Celebrate the little ones and all that. But it's making progress on that and doing something that I find interesting as well. We do have the whole that whole, I think it's the productivity that we are so conditioned with in terms of the patriarchy. And, that kind of thing kind of hangs over me a little bit. But I think as long as you're like making progress on things that are meaningful to you, because it's like and this is the thing with the Taurus new moon, it's like we are the ones to attach meaning to things in our lives. And in order to create a life of meaning, you really need to be tapped into what your values are. Like what interests you, what is important to you, what is the kind of life that you want to either create or evolve for yourself from where you are now. And it's like taking those little steps. It doesn't always need to be big leaps. Like Taurus is slow, steady, consistent, grounded action. It's not about like taking, erratic, quick, fiery action. It's very grounded.
Yeah.
And it's like the little steps are still valid,
Yeah.
They still count.
When I was doing the research for my embodiment class this week, and because I thought, oh, it is actually on the new moon, I'll do the new moon.
No, good timing.
And it was that was one thing that came up when I was doing my research around it, is that the Taurian energy on the new moon is actually, it's a slightly different energy for a new moon, and actually it is a slower inward self-care.
Yeah.
Rather than, as you've just already pointed out. It was interesting when you were using the language, and I was just thinking, actually, like what you're doing with your astrology course is you're courageously persevering with the things of value and the meaning in your life, which is literally gate 38.
Yeah.
But it's hard, right? And and I think this is the thing I love about our pod, is that it's the no taboo stuff, and it's like we're not just going to sit here and bypass whatever's going on, and recognizing that there are days where, you're trying to practice what you preach, but we're human beings, so we don't necessarily get it right. And I was laughing. I was not really laughing, but I've been invited. Well, there's something that I said I was going to go to tomorrow night, a coaching seminar thing, and my body's like, really can't be arsed. And it's funny because I'm going to publish this after tomorrow. So if Amy is listening, I'm really sorry.
But it's true. And this is the thing, right? It's where it's like we are like honouring what we really need.
Yeah.
Like, what is your body asking for?
And do I
it's
think
not
the thing
personal.
is, I would love to go, right? But it's a Monday, which then means that I can't go to my social netball, which is just round the corner. This other thing is actually, it's 25 minutes there, 25 minutes back. And yes, it would be really interesting. But my social team, so this is the other thing, because I've been saying to you around like building community, and actually where I live, not 25 minutes away. And although wait till I tell you like my pottery evening. But so last week, so the social netball have put a team into the league, and actually because my training is changing from a Thursday to a Tuesday, I can do it, although there's two that I can't do. And it's quite exciting. So we're doing the summer league, and so I was there on Wednesday, and I was like, actually it's really nice because it's so local. And actually there's one of the women lives 4 doors up from me.
Shut up. Oh,
I know.
that's cool.
So I was like, and actually, so I played centre for 3/4 of the game on Wednesday. I absolutely fucking burst. This is also why I think my body is like, because on Wednesday night I did, it was about 50 minutes of netball all in all, but the first 10 minutes I played goal short, and I was rubbish, and they couldn't get the ball to me, which was part of the problem. And then, so I ended up moving into centre because we were limited on some numbers, and the people who were there didn't really understand, or didn't have experience in the position. So I was like, I'll play centre at least for one of the quarters. Ended up playing it for the rest of the game. I was burst. We were playing against kids, and every time they kept turning over the ball, because we were forcing stuff. And honestly, I was basically I was doing shuttle runs up and down a court. Whereas normally for centre, you get the ball down, they score the ball, you can take it back. But if they turn it over, and this 16-year-old's gnashing, and I was like, I'm nearly 50. Anyway, I really enjoyed playing with them. We were playing outside though, which was a weird.
Oh,
I know it's a weird thing they do down here. As soon as it gets to May, they're outside. In fact, some places play outdoors all year round. I'm like, netball's an indoor sport. Anyway, so part of me is like, we really need to work on centre passes. And actually, so I was a bit like, I feel like I should go to the thing on Monday night for the social people rather than this other coaching seminar. And I haven't, and I feel a bit bad because obviously the club plays for this other coaching seminar. But I was like, I
boundaries.
feel quite tired at the moment, and I've got like because I've signed up to do my Kundalini yoga teacher training, and so I really want to dedicate some time for that. Um, and I'm just being really mindful that I'm a projector, and I literally can't have my whole day scheduled with. I need to have
Yeah.
some time of nothingness. So I feel like I'm going to pull out. I don't really like normally doing that because I had said yes. I'm not
Mm.
normally that person. So it's funny what comes up with these things.
Sometimes things change though, and it's just like it's
Mm.
and this is the thing, right? It's like, everybody banging on about self-love, but self-love is when you really prioritize your own needs not under, over the needs of
Underestimating.
others, where you're like, not under, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like, and it's in those little things where you say, do you know what, my feelings matter here, like how I feel in my body, in
Yeah.
my life matters, and holding the boundaries. And also, I think it's like then you're an example for other people, or like where you're at, instead of
I
trying to
think,
people please.
I mean, I think it's just, I think it's, I mean, I had said yes, and then I thought, but I've missed actually quite a bit of the social netball on a Monday, and I'm like, this is the team I'm playing with for over the summer, and I was like,
Mm,
it would be good to help them a bit.
mhm.
So, and also that's just round the corner. And like, I know that tomorrow, so Bob's going way back to working away again. And so, like, the alarm's going to go off at like 4:30. So my sleep's going to be really disrupted. So I'm like,
Half
um,
four.
I know. But can I tell you about my pottery thing?
Oh, please tell me about your pottery thing.
It was so wholesome and lovely, and
Oh,
it was like, because I know we've talked before around like, I'm sort of doing a bit more like painting. I know you've been leaning a lot,
hmm.
we've both been leaning into more creativity, and actually how being creative allows you to witness some of the voices in your head. That's not
Yeah.
being a schizophrenic, but like, where our inner critic might be noisy. And I
Hmm.
think using creativity, it does allow you to just witness it and be like, that's not me. But we were it was making Highland cows, and
Cool.
honestly, it was. I don't know if I can show it. I'll maybe see if I can show you on here. So I was laughing because Amy and I, it was 7 till 9, and then Amy and I were still there at like 9:45 finishing off. We were like the last two finished off. It was hilarious. Um, but it was so good. We're back in a couple of weeks to be like, so like this, I don't know if you can see this. This was my two blobs, and it's on its feet now. But wait till you
Yeah.
see. Then it had some horns on
Ah, that's
and
cute.
some
Look at its
ears.
ears.
And then, oh, and then look, this is what's,
Ah, that is so cute.
um,
Ah, I love
so we're
that.
back to, they're getting dried just now, and then we'll be back to glaze them in at the beginning of June.
Oh,
And
nice.
I'm just trying to see because there was some options for, like some of the people, I'll see if I can have one because obviously I wonder if I can do it without, she shared the picture with all the, let me show you this one. I'll take the person out since they've not consented to be on this podcast.
Ah,
Can you
that's
see?
cool.
So they've like, some people were using basically like a ricer or a garlic press to like get like much more noodly, whereas I ended up I thought what I was doing would be faster, but it really wasn't. But yeah, it was so relaxing. And I was like, imagine being able to do this like full time. And the lady whose workshop it was, she makes Highland cows. So I think she'd gone to a workshop with the other lady who was sort of running it, and then just was started making them in her spare time. She now has 18,500 followers on Instagram.
Oh,
She sells her
amazing.
cows and she does some sheep. Like she makes them, they ship all over the world. And then the other lady who was helping her, who taught her, is starting. She does like beginners pottery wheel ones. I
Oh,
know, and I was like, oh,
I love it. You could have your ghost moment.
well. And then I was like, I was joking. I said to Bob, I was like, first stop making these Highland cows. Next stop, the Great British Pottery Showdown or whatever it's called.
Oh, I
The
was going to say
competition.
about that because when I was living with Gail before I got my van, we were watching it. Do you remember? What is it?
Do you still
The pottery
follow her?
throwdown.
Oh, yeah. Do you still follow? Because that was the year that the Lois Gunn won
She is
her
phenomenal.
Insta, and she's doing like earrings and stuff now. She doesn't just do like actual pot. Like her creativity is really cool.
She is so cool. Like pottery idol, so cool.
Well, I know I was a bit tempted because the woman gave us a leaflet about her beginners pottery thing, and I was like, that would be so amazing, and I could go
Yeah.
like daytime. But then I was like, Gail, your focus is your Kundalini teacher training just now.
It's a
Do
different kind
not.
of thing though, because then you've
I
got it's like the
know.
creativity side of things. Do you know what I mean? And
I
look
know.
at how much joy it brings
I
you.
know. I know.
Like
I
it
did get
properly
that.
lights you up.
Well, because I thought I could make some mugs, but I
Ah,
really enjoyed
cute.
it. Like, and I would do something like, and then I thought this is where, like, my friend Shelley. Hey, Shelley, if you're still listening.
Hi, Shelley.
Obviously, her and I do our. We both joined the Spiritual Painters Sanctuary, and in fact, last Sunday we did a painting which was it was using the hollow bone, which weirdly is how I've been taught to do my spiritual Reiki. And
Uh-huh.
so it's basically like I suppose spirit communicating through you. So it's not intuitive painting, it's more so you're guided to do um something. And that's been really good. And I think it's all just like it's just really taught me, like, especially because there's no right or wrong with art, but I
Hmm.
remember being taught at school there was a right or a wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so this, and then like doing the little Highland cow workshop thing, I did have to make sure I didn't start staring at other people and getting comparisonitis. Um,
Stay in your lane.
I absolutely. But it's just, I don't know, it's just been really like, yeah. Anyway, my point about Shelley, she has in her house, she has, so obviously I have my room as an office, but she has like a bigger room, which is, she has lots of art stuff. And I would just, yeah, I think I would just love a bigger space. Or I think when
Oh,
Bob
I know.
sorts out my shelves, I
Hmm.
can actually invest in some more arty stuff.
Mm.
Um, but
And
yeah,
have it all out. Like for me, at the moment, I've not been doing any creativity because I moved everything out of the van and it is
actually, I'm going
chaos.
to interrupt you there because that's not true. Because I saw the song you sung on
Ah,
TikTok
that
that
was
you
from
had
ages ago.
written.
I did
Yeah, no,
create,
but you
yeah,
sung it recently, and you put
I
it
did.
out there. That's very courageous, and I was like, and it was amazing.
Do you know what, right? I think that because I've been sitting on that for ages and I was having a hard moment and I was like, I need a bit of joy in my life. And I just started singing and I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to share it. I think this is another thing about like when you're faced with death, not even your own death, but others, as you realize what the fuck am I waiting for? Like, why
Absolutely.
am I literally? We're all going to die. We're all going to like. Why am I so afraid? What is the worst that can happen? I share a song and somebody takes the piss out of me. Literally, like something that brought me joy. Who cares, really? Ultimately,
It was
um,
so good.
thank you so much. I mean, I don't have the best voice in the world, but I have my voice, and this is the thing, isn't it? Is like just accepting yourself Accepting yourself. There are amazing artists out there who are not, a cappella singers. A cappella
And I
singers?
mean, a
But
lot of the shite you see I was going to say on Top of the Pops, check me out, my retro reference. A lot of
that's
it's
from the
like,
past.
like voices are tampered, I was just tampered with, but like equalized and stuff, so
Oh, and
it's,
like AI, like the amount of like
oh,
AI
I
generated
know.
music that's out there now, it's like, oh, it's
I know that's
crazy.
distressing me a little bit.
It is
That's scary.
distressing me also. And maybe that's part of it as well, as like a sort of like rebellion against that, is just sharing something that's like simple and that I created and sang myself.
See, you are
So
thriving.
maybe I am thriving. Yeah. I would like to be doing more art though. But everything is, I'm look faced with all of the boxes and bags of stuff here just now behind the computer. I'm not going to show you that, because I don't have the space to get things
Mm,
organized at the moment. So, um, but you talking about, and this is the thing, right? Coming back to like the whole like Taurus new moon and the stability and all of these kind of things, is like a space where you can create, and you can do that in a van. I've done it. I've been there, right? But to have a space that everything's out, like for me, I I am more consistent when something is right in front of me. Like it takes
mm.
out the step of having to get the things out of the cupboard and blah 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 blah. Like if I just had everything on like neatly on a surface. I can remember I used to have one of those pegboards in my office. Do you know
Oh, well,
the
Jill.
it wasn't a fancy one, but it was one of the IKEA ones, and it was so handy because you could put the little things. I had my decks of cards in there, my tarot decks, and I had like all different bits. I had a little book up there about the moon, and my pens were in a little bucket, and so everything was right in front of me. And I needed that because it was a space saver, because it was a small office. But little things like that where things are accessible.
Mm.
There's a lady that I follow on YouTube, and for anybody who has like, or is looking for someone who is like a bit of a comfort watch, like I'll go to this channel when I'm like, I just need a little bit of like a comfort watch. Because I've not had a TV. I mean, I do have access to a TV just now, but I'm not really interested in TV. I like seeing people like real life stuff, like where people are sharing like their passions and their creativity. But anyway, she's called the Unexpected Gypsy, and she's an artist, and she does a lot of watercolors and fairy type stuff, and she's got a
Hmm.
beautiful studio, and she has lots of stuff like hanging up on the walls and everything, and she takes you through like some of the things that she does art journaling, which is really beautiful. It's a practice I would like to get into like on a regular basis. um and it's one of those ones that I'm like, oh, do you know when you look at somebody, you're like, that's inspiration
Yeah.
for like being really in touch with your creativity and having like a beautiful space in which to create, and like that is on the manifestation. It's in the ethers, in my vortex, as Abraham Hicks would
Yeah,
say.
maybe I could do it. I mean, this obviously is not a massive space, but it is actually, and obviously my partner is a joiner, so like I have
Yeah,
someone with the skills, not
he'll
just
whisper
like me
something
with an
up.
idea. Um,
Mm.
and it's interesting when you say that, and I look around, and and part of it's things like, so the desk I have here does take up quite a lot of space because it's a sit stand desk. But then, how when you just there, actually, if I take a step back and think about, I could get creative on the storage. And actually, I
Hmm.
think that's one thing that Bob and I are looking to do around, create a little bit more space and make it feel a bit more, make it feel spacious, even if it isn't quite. But
Hmm.
actually, there is probably an opportunity for me then to have things a bit more accessible and out, because that's the thing, it's like you get the paints out and you're like, everything's is in a box which is accessible, but
Hmm.
I'm like, it's total faffy.
Yeah,
It's
I can't be doing with the faff.
I know, although it is still on my bucket list to get a sewing machine. And so
Yeah, I
yesterday,
have one under a whole load of stuff. I can
well,
just see it
Sandra
before
left
me.
me her sewing machine for a while. She said, can I leave it in your garage? And I was like, oh, can I use it? And she's like, yes. And then you'd been gone about a year and you came back and you're like, I'm going to take the sewing machine. Is that all right? And I was like, well, A, it's your sewing machine. And B, I had done nothing with it. And then I was laughing because I was
Oh,
saying to Bob, I was like, it's been on my bucket list to have a sewing machine for ages. And he's like, why don't you just go and do it? And then this is where it's funny because this is where narratives show up. I'm like, what is the blocker? And I'm like, well, it's quite an expensive thing to go and buy, right? And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. And I'm like, so I keep waiting for one to show up second hand, like the same as my rattle and my drum, but you know, hey, universe, I've got a wee shopping list.
yeah.
But I mean, I could easily do it. And then, but the thing that then stops me is I'm like, well, I don't actually have space here. I'd have to use the dining table downstairs. And currently, I can't access that because Bob has so much of his shit on there. So then I'm like, well, actually, really, for me to get a sewing machine, you need to build your shed in the garden so all of your stuff can exit the house.
I love how like it's now like a full-on renovation project just to get your sewing machine and start
I
sewing.
know,
Like
but
we do sometimes make it harder for ourselves than it needs to be,
I know,
right?
and it
Like,
is ridiculous because actually I do have space to store the sewing machine like under the stairs and stuff. And
yeah.
actually, because we were out in town yesterday, and like I'm being really, like I was thinking about like my clothing and stuff like that, and it's like adjustments and being able to almost like, because I was looking at like tops to do my yoga in, and
Oh
actually,
yeah.
and I was like, and I like this sweatshirt, for example, I really like this, and it is cheap as chips, and I will confess it was from Primark. I don't normally shop in Primark per se. I've had this though for about a year and a half. It's cotton, and what I really like about it is the shape. And then I was like, well, this is effectively a pattern,
Yeah.
so I could go and actually make myself a sweatshirt
Yeah.
exactly how I want it to be. Um, or I could adjust some other stuff. So maybe this me talking about it is a sign that I need to just get my finger out.
Well,
And I know
also,
that I'd enjoy the creativity. Like, and I really enjoy when you get in the zone of something.
yeah, same. It's funny you're talking about this because I was literally thinking about the sewing machine because it is looking at me every day. I get up and it's like, "Hello, are you going to play with me today?" And when I was clearing the stuff out the van, I was packing up like all of the fabric. I literally, I literally had a big suitcase full of fabric and even books on sewing with sewing patterns in one of like the sewing bee, I think it is ones.
Right.
And all the different little feet and stuff. I've got zips. I've got all sorts of stuff. Also, I don't know if we talked about this in the podcast last year, but I went through a phase of like when I saw like things in charity shops that were like at the very end of these are going to go to landfill if they're not bought. If there were fabrics that I liked, then I would like pick up things, and I went through a phase of like unpicking everything, so like seam ripping
Right. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
basically get the fabric that is no longer in clothes form. So I went through all that process, and I have a whole bag of stuff that it was like there was one charity shop that it was like a bucket, like one of those bins that is like the size of like a, those kids playpen things, but it was like a bucket just full of stuff, and it was like fill up a plastic bag, kind of like the takeaway plastic bags you would get, fill one of them for £1.
Wow.
So I got loads of little bits in there, and I was like, and then it's like, low risk, low cost type thing of like experimenting. And I was like, oh, I could make some, like maybe a couple of little tops, or like try and make some shorts or something like that. So it's all there. But it's just like, I just haven't done the actual thing. I've even got a cutting board and a measuring board and all that. I've got the rotary tool. The rotary tool needs a new blade, but the sewing machine could do with a service because it's a bit clunky. I've had that for about 10 years. But the stuff's all there. So maybe we just need to get out our own way and start doing the things. Anybody else out there? got projects for like
Like, I mean, we could just
projects for
collect all
days.
the excuses of like,
Oh, I know.
oh well, it'll be messy, or I don't really
Mm,
know, or blah blah blah. But
yeah.
it's like I just like I like the sort of like sometimes that intuitive nature of like creating something, and I think that's
Mm,
something that the paintings definitely show me. Like, just and it's really interesting. Like Shelley and we've got a very different style or how things come into us, and
mhm.
it's nice when we do different paintings. And then even things like when I was up in Aviemore the other week, I did a painting, got sunburnt, which was stupid, but I was sat and I thought, because I took the paints with me
I
because it's so
love that.
beautiful, and I
Yeah.
think I've just been, because I've never really um like I didn't do art beyond like third year or whatever, and like I've never really been taught, so it's like I'm very much like paint, like unless I'm doing something like the spiritual stuff, I'm very much like paint what you see.
Hmm.
And but it's really interesting how I find myself using or doing certain things, or feeling called to do like paint certain things, or a style, or like I bought myself some watercolor pens, but I'm not sure if I'm really a watercolory person.
Oh, I love
Um,
watercolors. There that you have to just let go of
it's
trying to control it though, because it kind of has a little bit of a mind of its own. It's
Yeah,
like,
I
let me
think
just go
it's
do my thing.
more the vibrancy
That
of
depends
the
on your
color.
paints. I've got a beautiful little set that is Daler Rowney that I got in a charity shop that introduced me to watercolor paints. It was like one of the best purchases I've ever bought. And it was like, I think it was like £4.50, and it's like a little travel one, hadn't been
Mm,
used. And the colours in there are so vibrant. Oh my God. And it's getting the right mixture of the water with the colours. But it very much depends on the quality of the paint with watercolors. Like if you
mm,
have cheap watercolors, they can look a bit like really wishy-washy. Um, Whereas if you have, like, I think it's worth investing if you wanted to, if you were drawn
mm,
to doing watercolors. It's a shame that we're so far apart, because I'd be like, you could just practice with mine and see how you find them. And then if you're like, oh, do you know what? I really
mm.
like them, I'll get my own set. But yeah, I really like them actually. They're just a bit like do their own thing in the paper. But I like that, because then sometimes you're like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And when it dries, it looks totally different, which is cool.
Yeah.
What kind of paints have you been preferring?
I've been using acrylics.
Oh, cool.
Actually, when I did my when Shelley and I did our kind of download picture thing the other day, I chose charcoal.
Oh, that's cool.
So, um, yeah,
That's cool.
it was quite interesting the stuff in it, and then there was like just so yeah. But I find that the creativity is definitely like helping. I was gonna say release control, but I think it's more like I definitely have still like a lot of conditioning around like you should be doing this, or this is the right way to do something, or the wrong
Mm,
way to do something. And the more I lean into like creative projects, the more I realize like there is no right or wrong, and you doing something creatively definitely helps shine a light on that.
mm-hmm,
Um, which I then think helps it builds confidence in just putting yourself out there and things, because
mm-hmm.
like, because life's really short, as you already shared, and it's like, what's holding you back, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is like, again, circling back to the card about struggle, is
Mm,
like, when we add in things that actually bring joy into our lives and make a difference, it shifts you from that energy. I think I really needed this conversation today. I needed this chat. Um,
me too.
it's the reminder to just do the things, even when you don't feel like doing them,
Do the
because on the other
thing.
side of it, it's like, I always remember, I think it was Jay Shetty, the podcast, the line stuck with me. It was, do it for the after. It's like, in the beginning, you might not feel like it. It's like when you exercise, right? I keep telling myself, get up and do yoga in the morning, and I just can't get out of bed. I'm really struggling with that at the
Mm,
moment. But again, Taurus New Moon was like, your healthy practices back in order, get up and do some, even if it's just gentle movement for 5-10 minutes. But it's doing these things, giving ourselves the time and space to do it. And then doing it for the feeling that you have once you've done it. Like, having made things on the sewing machine in the past, there is nothing like the feeling that you have when you have something tangible that you made.
And you're like,
Like,
holy moly, I
I
know.
made this. Like, interestingly, my dad still has so I made this mask thing at school that was like out of clay. And it's funny that he's still got it, but it was like a mask, and it was glazed and everything, and it's really cool. But he's got it above the sink in the wee utility room in the house. So every time like I go in there, like I'll see it, and it's like that reminder of like, I made that. I made that when I was like, oh God, I must have been like 14 or something. And it's those things, right, that you're like, when you create something, and it's like, it's something that didn't exist in the world before, and now it's something physical, or that you
It's a
can.
sign we all need to go and be
Yeah.
creative. I
Yeah.
thought it might be nice just to conclude on our pod today. There's affirmations for each of the cards, but there are
Nice.
2 affirmations to support this card around what's the title of it again? The Nuanced Ninja. And the first one is, I have a warrior spirit, which is interesting because I was saying when I was doing my research on the Taurus new moon is for your affirmations to begin, I have.
Yeah.
So I have a warrior spirit. And then the second one is, I love a good challenge.
Oh,
It's interesting
very good.
perspective on both of those actually, because I love a good challenge. Because sometimes we think of challenges being negative, but when you put I love a good challenge in front of it, you're like, I can navigate a path out of here. I can see where I'm going, or like
Yeah.
the tools that you lean on, or that your kind of fighting spirit. Like, no, come on, I've got this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can make a piece of clothing from a sewing machine.
Well,
I
this is
can paint
it.
a thing. I can get my paints out.
Yeah.
Have a.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like, I love that with this energy as well, because like Taurus rules the second house. It's like the house of like our possessions and the things that we attach meaning to, you know? Um, and so, yeah, like creation is such a beautiful part of that, like what you create. Um, and also like the things that, because I think it's important that we have things that we can build up our resilience and our belief in ourselves, right? And it might seem like grief and creativity are not at all connected, right? But when you are in the process of doing something like, let's use the example of making a piece of clothing that is slightly higher than your current comfort level, right? It's like once you do that, you go through the process, it tells your subconscious, like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And so when you're faced with something difficult in your life, it's like you've built that up within. These are all things that I'm like reminders to self right now. Reminders
Sometimes we need
myself.
that though,
Hopefully it's
because
helped somebody else out there.
like we can be. Sometimes we just need that reminder or that perspective, irrespective of whatever it is that it's going on in your life. Because life happens, stuff goes on
Yeah.
around us, and and then you think suddenly time's passed, and hopefully this podcast's a good reminder to like come back to the now, live in the present, and as you say, we can do hard things in life, and we're here. What was it? Was it you said? Was it Bob said something? We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, I see that
In
every
fact, he
now and
said that to me
again.
yesterday. I think we were having a chat about something. Oh yeah, it was. We were having a chat about healthy habits,
Ah, okay. Yeah.
particularly related to energy drinks
Oh, here for a
and
good
things.
time, not a
Yeah.
long time.
And I was like, wouldn't it be good to have more of a like, your good time to last a little longer? So we're having that chat.
Balance.
Absolutely,
Balance.
absolutely. It's all quite into. I was actually I'm sorting out a will at the moment. Adulting.
Adulting.
Um,
Fun
and then she
times.
did ask me around like my funeral arrangements and like what did I want, and I said, isn't it funny? Like as a celebrant and someone who works with people in this, and around death and dying, and I'm an advocate of having your things written down, that I still don't actually have my funeral arrangements written down.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something on my card for the next week or so, I think. Fun times.
Fun times.
Although I did say to Bob, I was like, because obviously it's weird as well when you write a will, because there's an element of writing it as from the present, like what are my possessions, who are the people in my life today.
Mm,
But obviously, I'd like to think I'm going to be here for a bit longer than till next week, and
yeah.
that so things might evolve and change.
Mm-hmm.
But I did make Bob promise that he had to look after Hamish if I went before Hamish.
Yeah. Oh God, what a thought, eh?
And then I said, you better say yes, otherwise I'm leaving everything to Hamish and he can stay. For anyone who's new to the pod, Hamish is my dog. It's not.
The fur baby. Oh, H
I know.
dog.
He's dog.
Oh, it's
He's
these
dog.
difficult conversations, eh? Isn't it? And
But that's where, like, and what you've shared today is like, obviously it's very deeply personal, but actually it's so valuable being so vulnerable and being honest with people, because people are going through this all the time, and I think the more when we don't talk about stuff, it makes it feel scarier, more
yeah.
difficult, feel more isolating. And to hear people talk about it and to be open about the grief and the sadness, but also what the blessings that are coming from something,
Mm,
it can make it feel less scary. It doesn't make it any less difficult, but it can make it feel less scary and make you feel that you're not going through things alone.
yeah.
So thanks
I
for being so
think,
honest, Sandra.
oh, thank you
Who
for
the
holding the
fuck's
space.
Sharon?
Sharon, who's Sharon?
I don't know.
Somebody, side note, when I used to work for Standard Life, and the guy I worked with, when I started for the first few weeks, kept calling me Sharon. And then it was like a running joke that I got called Sharon instead of Sandra. And I was
When I
like,
went and got my hair done, she
yeah,
kept
it's
calling
like
me
Sharon.
Claire, and then it was like,
Yeah.
because weirdly, like a girl that I'd coached at netball actually worked there. And I didn't realize that at the time, and then it was like until I was paying at the end, and she was like, "Oh my God, your name's Gail, not Claire," and I was like, "Yes," because I introduced myself because she says, "Hi, I'm so," and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Gail," and it was booked
Mm,
in as Gail, and I was like, "It's funny because I've quite often been called Claire." Like in my
oh,
life as like a name, like, but I think that's quite common for Claire was quite a common name for people at school. There was like, I'm sure there was like about 4 or 5 Claires in my year.
mm,
Um, but I thought it's funny, isn't it, the names that people call you? And like
mm.
consistently it's the same thing there.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think you look like a Claire. Not clear to me.
Thanks very much. I don't
But
know if I look like a Gail either.
hmm,
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
And on that beautiful
On
note,
that note,
listeners,
thank you
thanks
for
for being with us
listening.
today.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
hearing
you.
Sandra. It's
Thank you for
tough
listening.
times, but yeah.
It's been the example, isn't it, of what you want the world to be like, is what I remind myself. Is like, if I want to live in a world that is more open and compassionate and loving and kind and able to hold space for each other, then it's like being the
Yeah,
example of that and allowing others the opportunity to do that. So, and I think all of it builds connection,
it
and
does.
ultimately that's really what we all want from life, is to feel loved and connected to each other,
Hmm.
to ourselves, to the universe. So
Absolutely.
being open to that. Yeah, and wherever you are right
Absolutely.
now is enough. Reminder to self and to everybody listening. Where you are right now, you are enough.
Thanks for listening. Until
Take
next
care of
time.
yourselves. Until next time.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
now.
For listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, then be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get notified about future episodes. We'll see you next time.